She smiled at our baby shower, hand on her heart, mist in her eyes, told us she couldn't wait to meet her first grandchild. 2 days later, I found the Craigslist ad. Spare room available. Quiet house. No kids. Posted the same week we announced we were expecting. The photo? Our guest room. Same bedding. Same curtains. Same floor lamp I put together with missing screws. And the email address? My mother-in-law's. My name is Ben. And this is the story of how my mother-in-law tried to evict my unborn child before she ever met him. Claire and I had been married 2 years when we got the news. We weren't trying, exactly, but we weren't not trying either. The day she told me, she left the pregnancy test next to a coffee mug with "World's Best Dad" written in Sharpie. I cried. I'm not ashamed of it. We'd been through a lot. A miscarriage the year before. A job loss that nearly gutted our savings. This pregnancy felt like the tide turning. Like maybe, finally, we were getting a shot at something soft and beautiful. We lived in her childhood home. A 2-story colonial with creaky floors and a lemon tree that somehow survived winters in Michigan. After her dad passed, her mom, Evelyn, asked if we'd move in, help with the house, keep her company. I said yes because Claire needed it, and because Evelyn, back then, seemed like the kind of woman who baked too many cookies and remembered birthdays by heart. Turns out, cookies are easier than boundaries. It started small. Comments about Claire's diet, about my job, about whether we were really ready for a baby. She never said it directly, just hinted. Subtle digs wrapped in concern. Like when Claire's belly started to show and Evelyn said, "It's sweet how you're both so excited. I just hope reality doesn't hit too hard when the crying starts." Or the night she told me I was so good with tools. Maybe I should convert the spare room into a den instead of a nursery, just in case things don't work out. But we shrugged it off. Claire said her mom was just scared, that Evelyn had raised 2 kids mostly alone, with a husband who traveled more than he stayed. She said her mom carried worry the way others carried faith. So when we decided to host the baby shower at the house, I tried to extend grace. I grilled. I decorated. I even put up with Evelyn's theme, little star, big dreams. She wore a blue dress with a tiny pin that said Glamma, handed out party favors like a politician on the campaign trail, and posed for every photo like she'd waited her whole life to be front and center. Then came Monday. Claire had morning sickness, so I stayed home from work. She went back to bed. I decided to clean up the leftover decorations. While I was packing up plates and streamers, I remembered I'd listed an old bike for sale on Craigslist the week before. I opened the app, and that's when I saw it, posted under Rooms for Rent. A blurry photo of our guest room, captioned, "Cozy room in quiet home. Private bath. Female preferred. No kids. Available immediately." My mouth went dry. I clicked contact. The reply to email was familiar. I checked it against Evelyn's. Perfect match. I stood there for a solid minute. Then I went down the hall, opened the nursery door, and just stared at the space we'd been filling with dreams. The mobile over the crib. The rocking chair we found at a garage sale. The stack of books Claire had already started reading out loud. Classics, lullabies, her favorite childhood stories. All of it, apparently temporary. The door creaked behind me. It was Evelyn. "Oh," she said, like I'd walked in on her brushing her teeth. "I was just looking for my scarf." I didn't answer. She looked past me at the half-finished nursery. "You know," she said slowly, "I've been thinking maybe it would be better if you 3 found a place of your own after the baby comes. For space." I turned to her. "You listed our room for rent before we even had the baby." She blinked. "I was just exploring options." "Options?" I asked. "I didn't post it seriously," she said, waving a hand. "Just testing the waters." No one even responded. Claire walked in then, rubbing her eyes, sensing the tension before hearing a word. "What's going on?" she asked. I looked at her, and suddenly, I didn't know how to say it. How do you tell your pregnant wife her own mother wants your baby gone before he even arrives? I didn't say anything. I just handed her my phone. Let her see the ad for herself. She stared at it, then looked at Evelyn, and I watched her face, every inch of it, go quiet. Not shocked, not angry, just quiet, like a clock had stopped ticking somewhere inside her. Claire didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just handed the phone back like it was something sticky she didn't want to touch. "Did you mean for me to find this?" she asked her mother. Evelyn bristled. "Don't be dramatic, Claire." I could tell that word, dramatic, hit harder than anything else. Claire used to tell me that growing up, Evelyn called her that every time she tried to speak up, every time she tried to set a boundary, Claire stared at the Craigslist ad again, then looked toward the nursery, the one we'd been painting together just last week, laughing when the dog stepped in the can and left little blue paw prints across the hallway. You listed the nursery, she said, softly. You put his room on the internet. For rent. Evelyn sighed like she was tired of explaining things to children. I listed the guest room. The baby isn't even here yet. You don't know how overwhelming it's going to be. I was trying to plan ahead. Plan for what? I asked. She looked at me then, and something in her face shifted, like a mask falling into place. Her voice turned cooler, more careful. For when you two realize this situation isn't sustainable. I've been generous, Ben. I'll let you move in. I've let you take over this house. Claire flinched. We moved in to help you, she said. You begged us to come. I didn't beg, Evelyn said, sharp now. I offered. And now I'm rethinking that offer. There it was. The real Evelyn, stepping forward. She wasn't just nervous about being a grandma. She didn't think we could handle it. She didn't think I could handle it. And now, faced with the reality that our family was expanding, she wanted her house and her control back. I stepped between them, not out of aggression, but protection. Claire's hands had curled into fists at her sides. We've paid rent every month, I said. We've fixed the plumbing, repainted the siding. We've invested in this house. Evelyn shrugged. And you're welcome to continue investing. Somewhere else. I felt Claire stiffen behind me. That room isn't just a guest room, she said quietly. It's his room. He's not here yet, Evelyn said. And if you're smart, you'll keep your options open. Parenthood isn't for everyone. Claire looked like she'd been slapped. We left the house that afternoon. Packed a bag. Just one. Went to stay with my sister across town. The drive was silent, not tense. Just stunned. Like we were both waiting to wake up from something. Then one morning, I got a message. Anonymous number. No name. Just a photo. It was the nursery. Our nursery. But the crib was gone. The changing table, too. The walls, stripped bare. And the caption? Thought you should see what she did. Claire saw it over my shoulder. Her face went still. Then she stood up, walked to the sink, stared out the window for a moment that felt too long. And then she picked up her phone. She didn't hesitate. She called her mother. You emptied the nursery, Claire said. I still have a key, Evelyn replied. You never officially moved out. You just left. You destroyed it. I removed some furniture. That's not destroying. Don't be so emotional. I heard Claire's breath catch, like she was trying to hold back a storm. I'm your daughter, she said. And that was your grandson's room. Evelyn didn't respond. Just silence. Then a click. She hung up. Claire sat down at the edge of the couch and buried her face in her hands. And that's when I realized something. We weren't going back. Not to that house. Not to that version of family. We'd outgrown it. Even if Evelyn hadn't. The next day, I made calls. Not to landlords. To a lawyer. Because the house? It wasn't technically Evelyn's anymore. Not completely. Her late husband, Claire's father, had left it in a trust, meant for family use. And Evelyn? She'd broken that agreement the second she listed that room for rent. This wasn't just about space anymore. It was about who had the right to say who belonged. And I'll tell you this. My son? He belonged. I sat across from the lawyer, trying not to flinch every time he flipped a page. Claire's father had drawn up the trust nearly 15 years earlier, long before I came into the picture, but with a clarity that now felt prophetic. The house wasn't just Evelyn's. It was held in both their names, tied to a clause that stated, this property is to remain a shared residence for the benefit of my wife and any future family members in times of need. Family members, the lawyer said, tapping the line. That includes Claire. And her child. I nodded. What does that mean in plain English? He gave me a small smile. It's not a guaranteed win in court, but it's strong enough to make her back off and protect your family. If she pushes, she risks violating the terms of the trust. I didn't feel triumphant. Just validated. We weren't crazy. We weren't overreacting. Evelyn had crossed a line. The lawyer drafted a letter, firm but respectful. It reminded her of the trust's terms, of Claire's legal rights, of the fact that removing the crib and clearing the nursery could be construed as interference. I showed it to Claire before we sent it. She read it once, then twice, then said something I hadn't expected. I don't want to move back in. I looked at her. Even if she backs down? She nodded. Especially if she does. And I understood. Because this wasn't just about a room anymore. It was about safety, about respect, about the kind of home we wanted our son to be born into. 2 days after the letter was delivered, Evelyn showed up at my sister's house. No warning, no call, just her silver sedan pulling into the driveway like she still had a key to every moment of our lives. Claire was out running errands. So it was me who answered the door. Evelyn stood there in a long coat, clutching a manila envelope like it held all her dignity. "I'd like to talk," she said. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. Cold air between us. She didn't look angry. She looked tired. "I got the letter," she said. I nodded. I didn't realize the trust still mattered. "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't realize. You didn't ask. You just acted." She bristled, but didn't argue. "I wasn't trying to hurt Claire," she said. "I was trying to protect her." "From what?" "From becoming me." Her voice cracked on that last word. "I had 2 kids by the time I was 25. A husband who left town more than he stayed. I raised them alone, in a house that never felt like mine. And when he died, I thought I'd finally get a say in how things go. I didn't say anything, because for the first time, I saw something behind all that control. Fear." She continued. "I thought if I cleared the room, if I posted the listing, maybe I'd make space for a different future, one that didn't feel so inevitable. But that was never my call to make." She handed me the envelope. Inside were photos of the nursery, put back together. Not perfectly, the mobile was hung crooked, and the books were stacked like a child had done it, but it was whole again. "Tell Claire she can come home," she said quietly. I looked at her, and I told her the truth. "She doesn't want to." Evelyn closed her eyes, just for a second, then opened them. "I figured," she said. "But she does want you at the birth," I added. "If you can be there as her mother, not her landlord." That cracked something open in her face. A softness I hadn't seen since the day Claire told her she was pregnant, and Evelyn had cried without shame. "I'll be there," she said. Then she turned, got into her car, and drove off. That night, Claire and I sat at my sister's kitchen table. I handed her the envelope. She didn't open it right away, just ran her fingers over the edge like it might bite. Then she looked at me. "Are we doing this?" she asked. I knew what she meant. Not just the baby, not just the birth, the whole thing. Starting over, together, as a real family, in a home that wasn't loaned, but ours. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a folded paper. A rental agreement. Small house. Quiet street. Nothing fancy. But the backyard had a tree big enough to build a swing someday. Claire smiled when she saw it. Didn't say a word. Just leaned forward and pressed her forehead to mine. And in that moment, I realized something. We'd spent so much time trying to build around her mother's fear that we almost forgot to build toward our own joy. We moved in a week later. No fanfare. No big announcement. Just boxes, pizza, and the quiet kind of hope that settles deep in your bones when no one's watching. The nursery came with us. So did the crib. And in that new space, those blank walls, those still floors, we started something real. Not perfect, but ours. The first night in the new house, Claire couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hand on her belly, while I tried to pretend my brain wasn't playing every possible what if in a loop. What if the baby came early? What if we weren't ready? What if Evelyn changed her mind again? "I don't want her at the hospital," Claire whispered. I turned toward her. "You said." "I know what I said. But I meant, I want my mom there. Not the version of her who keeps flipping between support and sabotage." I nodded. "I'll handle it," I said. And I meant it. But I didn't expect to need to so soon. Claire went into labor 4 weeks early. It was a Tuesday. She was making toast. I was arguing with a customer service robot over the phone bill when she called my name in a voice I'd never heard her use before. Sharp, tight, urgent. We got to the hospital just after noon. By 3, the contractions were closer. The room smelled like antiseptic and lavender lotion, her favorite scent, the one I packed in case it helped. By 4, Evelyn showed up, uninvited. She walked in with a bouquet like she'd just been called on stage to accept a medal. I was standing near the monitors, watching the numbers rise and fall like ocean waves, when Claire saw her. And everything froze. Evelyn smiled. "I brought peonies. I know they're your favorite." Claire didn't say a word. The nurse looked at me, confused. I stepped forward. Gently. "We're keeping things quiet," I said. "Just us." Evelyn blinked. "But I'm her mother." Claire turned her head. "And I'm her daughter. But I need calm. Not noise." There wasn't anger in her voice. Just finality. The kind that closes a door without slamming it. Evelyn didn't fight. She just stood there a beat too long, then left the flowers on the counter and walked out. The nurse followed her. The door clicked shut, and Claire let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped for years. Our son arrived just after midnight. 6 pounds. Full head of hair. Let out a scream that made every nurse in the room laugh and Claire cry. We named him Miles. Claire held him like she was afraid he'd vanish. I held her like I was afraid she would too. And for a moment, a real, honest, breathless moment, nothing else existed. Not the past. Not Evelyn. Not the rooms we left behind or the ones we rebuilt. Just us. 3 people, wrapped in skin and love and the terrifying beauty of beginning. Evelyn didn't text the next day, or the next. She waited until we got home. The card arrived 3 days later. Inside was a handwritten note, no return address. I hope one day you'll understand that fear and love often wear the same face. I was afraid. I was wrong. I miss you both. Claire read it once, then tucked it into the back of a drawer. We'll deal with her later, she said. And I knew she wasn't shutting the door, just choosing not to open it today. Meanwhile, something strange started happening. Little things. First, a letter from a rental agency addressed to potential tenant. Then a voicemail on my cell from a woman named Sandy asking if the room was still available. She said she found the number on Craigslist. I almost didn't connect it, but then I checked Craigslist. Again, there it was. Same listing, same picture. This time, a different caption. Room listed by former tenant. House now quiet. Move-in ready. I stared at the screen, heart sinking. It was Evelyn, trying to make it sound like we were the ones who'd moved on. Like this wasn't her doing. Like she was just offering what was left behind. She was relisting the room again. This time not as a current offer, but as if we'd already gone. As if she'd evicted us from memory. Claire was feeding Miles when I showed her. She stared at the ad for a long time, then looked up. She doesn't get to rewrite this, she said. And something in her eyes hardened. I sent Evelyn one final message. Not angry, not emotional, just the truth. We are not your tenants. You are not our landlord. We are a family, and we're building that without you, until you show us you're capable of being part of it. If you can't respect that, then stay gone. She didn't reply, not to the message. But weeks later, little signs began to appear, quiet, indirect. A letter, a photo, a blanket with no return address. But the listing disappeared within the hour. Weeks passed. Miles grew. Claire healed. We built routines in the quiet. Midnight feedings, stroller walks, lullabies hummed half awake. And one night, as I was rocking him to sleep, I caught Claire watching us from the doorway. You're a good dad, she whispered. I smiled, tired but sure. You're a good mom. She shook her head, just a little. Not always. None of us are. But we keep showing up. That's what counts. She walked over, put her head on my shoulder. And in the soft dark of that nursery, the one Evelyn once tried to erase, I felt something settle in me. Not peace. Something better. Belonging. It was a Sunday afternoon when the envelope arrived. No return address. No stamp. Just slipped under our door while we were out walking with Miles. Claire opened it slowly, carefully. Inside was a folded letter, cream-colored paper, her mother's handwriting. And taped to the top, a photograph of Claire, age 5, in that same guest room, the one Evelyn had tried to rent out, lying on a bed with star-print sheets and a lopsided teddy bear in her arms. Claire stared at it for a long time, then handed it to me. I used to think that room was magic, she said. It was mine when I was little. Then it became the guest room. Then the babies. Then, softer. Then not. We unfolded the letter together. It wasn't an apology, not exactly. But it was the closest Evelyn had come. She wrote about losing her husband, about the years that followed, raising 2 kids in a house that always felt one missed paycheck away from foreclosure. She said the silence after he died was the loudest thing she'd ever lived through. I didn't know how to make space for joy, she wrote, only how to guard against pain. And then, when you told me you were pregnant, Claire, I wanted to feel hope. But all I felt was fear. Not of the baby, not of you, of what I'd become, brittle, controlling, too used to empty rooms. I didn't know how to open the door again, so I tried to close yours. She ended with this. I don't deserve to hold your child. I might not even deserve to hold your hand. But if you ever want me back, I'll be here. Not at the house. Not through listings or letters. Just here, waiting. We sat in silence for a while after that. Miles gurgled in his sleep, tucked in Claire's arms. And I thought, this is what a legacy looks like. Not furniture, not real estate, but whether you teach the next generation how to love or how to fear. That night, we sat at the kitchen table with a decision hanging in the air between us. I don't know if I can forgive her, Claire said. You don't have to, I told her. Not yet. Not ever, if it hurts more than it heals. But you get to decide what the story becomes now. She nodded slowly. What would you do? I looked at Miles. Then at the photo, little Claire with her teddy bear, on the edge of the bed that would one day become a battleground. I'd write her back, I said. Even if it's short. Even if it's just to say we're okay. Claire did write her back. 3 sentences. We're safe. We're happy. We're not ready yet, but thank you for the letter. We dropped it in the mail the next morning. No return address needed. She'd know. The rest of that month passed like a slow song. Miles started smiling. Real ones. The kind that melt you from the inside out. I got a new job, remote logistics coordinator. It paid less, but gave me more time. Worth it. Claire started drawing again. Watercolors during naps. She hadn't picked up a brush in 2 years. And one afternoon, she came into the nursery, holding a small, sealed box. What's that? I asked. She handed it to me. Inside were keys. To the house? I said, confused. Claire shook her head. To the past, she said. I don't want them anymore. We buried them in the garden that evening. No ceremony. Just a quiet act of closure. And as the dirt covered that box, full of chipped metal and 2 many old doors, we looked at each other and didn't say a word. We didn't need to. The baby monitor was blinking softly on the windowsill. Inside, Miles slept. And in that sleep, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Not just safety, not just survival, but a future. Ours. Unwritten, uninterrupted, and finally, unburdened. Miles turned 1 in late spring. The day was sunny, soft-breezed, the kind of weather that makes you think maybe life is fair sometimes. We kept the celebration small. Just family we trusted, a few close friends, and a cake Claire spent 3 nights decorating with little stars and a moon. You know, she said, adjusting the high chair, I used to think everything would fall apart if we didn't have her approval. She meant Evelyn. She didn't have to say it. I nodded, setting out the last of the party favors, hand-drawn bookmarks with tiny constellations, because Claire said every baby deserved a sky full of dreams. We hadn't seen Evelyn since the letter, but she had sent a gift, a small box, wrapped in brown paper. No return address, of course. Inside was a hand-knit blanket, yellow and white, the same pattern she used to make for Claire when she was little. And underneath it, a note, only 4 words, handwritten in delicate cursive. For your room now. Claire didn't cry, but she did press the blanket to her chest like it was holding something warm she hadn't felt in a long time. We placed it on the rocker in the nursery, no fanfare, no discussion, just a quiet gesture. Maybe that was enough. That night, after everyone left and the house was littered with crumbs and torn wrapping paper and sleepy laughter, I stepped into the nursery one more time. Miles was already down for the night, pacifier bobbing softly, one sock halfway off. I looked around the room, the crib, the shelves lined with books, the watercolor stars Claire painted by hand above the changing table. And it hit me. This room had been the center of everything. The battleground, the symbol, the stake in the ground we refused to pull up. And now? It was just a room. Peaceful. Ordinary. Ours. I sank into the rocker, pulled the blanket across my lap, and just breathed. Not the shallow, guarded breath of survival, but the deep kind. The kind that comes when you've made it through the storm. When you've rebuilt. When you've stopped waiting for the floor to fall out from under you. People ask sometimes if Evelyn ever came back into our lives. And the answer's complicated. She never moved back into the center. But she did show up one day, quietly, to drop off a stack of children's books from Claire's childhood. No conversation. Just a nod, a small wave at the window, and a walk back to the car. It wasn't reconciliation, but maybe it was respect. And sometimes, that's the best you get from people who don't know how to say, I'm sorry, out loud. We left it at that. A year later, we outgrew that little house. We found a new one, with creaky floors, a sunlit kitchen, and 2 spare rooms. We only furnished one of them. When the realtor asked what we wanted to do with the other, I smiled. Nothing, I said. We like it empty. She looked confused, but nodded. And when we got the keys, Claire handed me a small wooden sign to hang on the door of that second room. It read, Some doors stay closed. This one stays ours. I laughed. She grinned. And that was that. So here we are. Miles is 3 now, still full of stars and wild questions. Claire paints again, sells prints online, signs them with a little crescent moon. And me? I still think about that ad sometimes. The one that said, no kids, quiet house. And I smile. Because our house? It's not quiet. It's full of tiny feet, cartoon songs, spilled juice, and bedtime stories. It's full of love no listing could capture. And that spare room? It's still empty. Not because we don't have plans, but because this time, we're the ones deciding what it becomes. No applications, no conditions, just family, chosen, protected, and finally, fully at home.